If you're rooting for me, I love you.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia. And you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today we are looking back at a very busy Thursday in the NBA. 9 games on, some weird starting lineups and decisions and big breakout rookie performances as well. We'll talk about all of that. Then we'll preview the 6 games for Friday as well. Michael Bolton.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. Indeed. The first game we take a look at, the Charlotte Hornets come from behind to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland, 109-106. Terry Rozier was great, 30-6 with 6 triples and 3 assists for Terry. He also shot the ball well, which is always
a surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
Of course, Devontae Graham didn't. 16 points, 11 assists, and 3 triples. Look, he's putting up counting stats. He's getting to the line. But I think we also just have to realize that maybe he isn't as good as what we thought at the beginning of the season. He's getting every opportunity. He's putting up numbers, but that is also causing him to force a lot of shots. Not saying he's not playing well or doesn't deserve to be a starter, because that's obviously the case. He's been really, really good. But some of that stuff from earlier in the season is not coming to fruition. He just is continually missing shots. And on a good team, I'm not sure he'd be given this level of a leash. Interestingly, the Baconator, Dwayne Bacon, into the rotation and took all of Cody Martin's minutes, who had previously taken all of Nick Batum's minutes. 28 minutes for Bacon, 15, 4, and 2 with 2 triples. That's nice. That's sort of what we thought he could do before the season started, and then he was outplayed by Graham and literally everyone else on this roster. So I'm not getting super excited. Even in 30-plus minutes, I didn't really see him as a 12-team league must-roster guy. Marvin Williams suffered some nasal trauma in this game, so he left after 14 minutes. While PJ Washington, 14, 6, and 5. No defensive numbers, and again, these are it's fine. 14, 6, and 5 is okay. That's what I was talking about on the Rookie Report show I did earlier today, that he should be rostered in 12-team leagues, but the upside to me feels limited. While Miles Bridges, he had a 1-game reprieve last time and was shit again. I think we can comfortably, I said this a week or so ago, we can comfortably move on from Miles Bridges, and my opinion on that hasn't changed. For the Cavs, Kevin Porter Jr., I'll start with him. He'd been trending up, but he trended downwards here, just 9 points. And it wasn't for a lack of shots. He still took the 8 shots. He was 50% from the field. But 9, 3, and 1 is disappointing, as is the 24 minutes. He's more of a 14-teamer with a bit of a luxury stash value for 12 teams. 2 good games in a row from Darius Garland. In fact, a couple of good weeks in a row. 14 points, 8 assists, 3 triples. It didn't come on crazy high shooting. The assists are really, really encouraging. He's probably a 14-team grab at this point, and let's see where it goes for 12s. Well, Love had 18 and 8, and the Padawan Colin Sexton, 21, 1 rebound. How he can go through 37 minutes and get 1 rebound is staggering. 2 assists and 1 steal. He did hit 4 triples though, while Tristan Thompson continues to regress. 6 and 11. And again, I think he's a fringe 12-team league guy when all is said and done and we get to the fantasy playoffs. Larry Nance is realistically just a luxury stash guy. There's just not enough for him here with everybody playing, with Love and Thompson playing. If you're holding out for a Love trade, you're still 5 weeks away from that. Can you deal with a guy who's barely a 16-team league guy with how he's playing at the moment? That is a question that you have to ask yourself by looking at your roster and your place in the standings. The next game we take a look at, the Denver Nuggets get the big win on the road against the Pacers, 124-116. Let's start with the main guys. Farton Will Barton had 16, 10, and 5. The Blue Arrow Jamal Murray had 22, 5, and 7. Pretty standard type performances from them. Big Chungus Nikola Jokic only played 24 minutes. 22 and 7, but really ignited in the second half at the end of the game especially. He was in foul trouble early, hence the low minutes. That meant that Mason Plumlee played 24 minutes. But the big story from this Nuggets team is Michael Porter Jr., who played 23 minutes. Remember, last game off the bench, he played 11 minutes, but he took all of Malik Beasley's playing time here with Gary Harris back. 23 minutes for Porter and had 25 and 5. And naturally, when you see a stat line with someone scoring 25 points, especially with a bloke who is as hyped as what Porter was, you will get excited. Now, he shot 92% from the field in this game. 92. That is never going to happen again in his career on 12 attempts. It just never will. He had 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 0 steals, and 0 blocks. So my thought here on Porter is he played 23 minutes with electric, unbelievable shooting, and the minutes are pushing up. There's no doubt about that. Will they continue to never play Malik Beasley? I think that'll go up and down. They didn't play Torrey Craig either, so just a 9-man rotation. And I think because Porter was feeling it like this, his minutes went up, his usage went up, and then tied into the points and scoring gave you this career night. He obviously cannot do this every night. It's impossible. Even getting the 23 minutes a night would be a bit of a stretch. You would require 20 minutes only from Jeremy Grant, 24 minutes only from Jokic, no Malik Beasley whatsoever for this to come to fruition. And then even then, if this was a 50% scoring night instead of a 92% scoring night, you're talking about 10 fewer points, and it's 15-5-1, and nobody's getting rock hard about that. It's fine. It looks all right, but it's not a must-grab sort of a situation. But this is exactly why you have a streamer spot on your roster. You want to take a flyer on Porter and believe they're going to play him 30 minutes a night? I don't. But you might. Go do it. Add him. Let's see what happens. The worst player on your team, get rid of him and see what you want to do. See how it goes. I think the 75% outcome here is that he plays 17 minutes a night and averages 12 points, and that's not worth it. He becomes tall Jordan Clarkson. Again, not worth it. But it could work out. They might reduce Gary Harris's minutes. Very unlikely. Barton's minutes. Very unlikely. Keep Beasley out of the rotation every game? Very unlikely. But that could all happen. And Porter could put up numbers. But this is one of those, grab him, trade him to someone who doesn't necessarily look at all the intricacies of how it worked, and you might get value back. But 92% shooting is not real. Gary Harris.
Nice, Gary!
12, 3, and 5 with 2 triples. Playing pretty well at the moment. I still don't buy him as a must-roster guy. He's more of a steals specialist streamer at this point, but really putting up some okay numbers and worth having in a 12-teamer for the time being. While Millsap, the minutes were there for him, but 6 and 7 with 2 steals. This is sort of why I'm not that interested in him in 12-teamers. For the Pacers, no Malcolm Brogdon, so Aaron Holiday started. 22 minutes, got into foul trouble, hence the low minutes, but still gave you the 10 assists, and as long as Brogdon is out, he's worth it as a 12-teamer. Jeremy Lamb stepped up 30 and 6 in 37 minutes. If I could get any sort of top 80 guy back in a trade for Lamb, this would be the time to do it. While Tony Warren Jr. had a very Tony Warren Jr. line, 20 and 5, but he did have 2 steals. He did have 2 threes as well, so a bit of a bonus there. Sabonis had 18, 9 and 9, 2 steals and a block, really good from him. While Miles Turner also got hot, 21 points for Turner in 35 minutes. Good efficiency, decently high usage, a little bit of a mirage here in terms of the minutes, the usage, the scoring, and the efficiency. And maybe you capitalize this into a sell high, but he only had the 1 block in this game, and that's always where his value is going to be driven from. Let's go on to the next game now, as we look at the Toronto Raptors and the Miami Heat with a score straight out of 94. 76 to the Raptors, 84 to the Heat. The Jedi, OG Anunoby.
Hello there.
Really good. 12 points in 37 minutes with 12 rebounds and 2 steals. Those numbers are really strong, right? And I said I don't think that he's necessarily a hold. He did come back into the starting lineup, and for the short term, he probably is going to be a hold. But again, 37 minutes, 12 rebounds, like these are not things that when Siakam, Gasol, and Powell all come back, he's going to be able to maintain. He was pushing towards 25 minutes a night when everyone was healthy for that 2 or 3 game window when everyone was there in the middle of the season. So, sell high. When I tweeted out, he looks like maybe he's going to be a drop, a lot of people bit back, and now there's a lot of OG believers, more than I thought, because I thought I was pretty high on this guy. But this is a good performance, but you might be able to then swing it into a top 70 guy in a trade. That's what I'd be trying. Hollis Jefferson off the bench, 13 and 7, steal and a block, strong, but of course it's all because of injuries. While the water boy Chris Boucher, you surely have dropped him by now, 2 points and 8 boards in those 13 minutes. Is a real buy low for Fred VanVleet. 7 points on 19% shooting. He is really struggling. That's horrible shooting. Devontae Graham would be proud of that. That's how bad it is. But it is a real buy low opportunity. While Kyle Lowry, 40 minutes, 15, 4, and 8, and he only played 40 minutes. He would have played more because he had to go to the locker room because he twisted his ankle and had to have it restrapped. The injury risk for this guy is making me so anxious. Like it's going to happen, it feels like. Now, he shot 25% from the field. These minutes are absolutely insane, and something needs to change. Terrence Davis, only 13 minutes after playing so well last game, while Pat McCaw was trash, 3 points in 28 for him. On to the Miami Heat. Bam Bam had 15 and 14 good numbers there, while Goran Dragic was down in the low 20s instead of the high 20s for the second consecutive game. That's worth at least watching at the moment. Kendrick Nunn therefore got more playing time. 38 minutes for Nunn. Only 7 points on 14 shots, which is obviously rough. But 9 assists, 1 steal in 38 minutes. I think Winslow's going to miss a few more games. So again, Nunn is going to have just that real back-end value. But any top 100 guy I get in a trade, I would do it. No questions asked. Nunn has fallen off pretty considerably over the course of the season. The Spur Dunk Robinson, just the 6 points in 19 minutes. He's just a 3-point streamer. That is it. That's all he is. While Tyler Hero had a pretty strong game, 13, 4, and 3, but it still took 33 minutes to get there, and it's not overwhelmingly good. Leave him for the 14 team as well. Jim Butler, 8 points on 10 shots is rough. 4 of 7 from the line is rough, but 12 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals helps you out a little bit there. While Kelly Olynyk basically out of the rotation in Miami, 3 minutes in back-to-back games. Next game up, the Utah Jazz, they get over those pesky Chicago Bulls, 102-98. Gobert had 17 and 12 with 3 blocks. Or Jingle and Joe Ingles, we talked about how his shooting was going to improve at the start of the season and then how it was going to regress. Well, here we go. 8 points on 33% shooting, but still 10 assists, 2 triples, blocked a shot. And while Conley is out at the very minimum, he should be rostered. The Donovan Mitchell had 17, 4, and 7, while Bojan Bogdanovic had 19 and 6. And we had Jordan Clarkson. This is Jordan Clarkson to me. 12 points in 23 minutes, no assists, no steals, no blocks, poor percentage. This is sort of what we expect. 14 teams at best, while Tony Bradley remains the backup center over Ed Davis. For the Bulls, Zach LaVine did twist his ankle late in the game. That's something for us to monitor. 26 points in 39 minutes with 5 assists. Horrible field goal percentage, but everything else was strong. While Larry Markkinen still really not playing enough minutes, but 18 and 8 with 4 triples. And all of the panic at the beginning of the season has ebbed away a little bit. It hasn't completely gone, but it has ebbed away somewhat. Big Wendell Carter had 18 and 13 in 36 minutes, while Chris Dunn was a disaster on offense again, but 8 rebounds and 4 assists is still good value. Now, will they cut his minutes at any sort of way when Chandler Hutchison returns? I think some Bulls reporters have been speculating that he'll lose some minutes there. And if he goes down to 25 a night, then he's not going to be a 12-team league guy. That is the concern there with Dunn. Satoransky was disappointing. 8 points in 34 minutes. Still had the 4 assists and 2 steals and still should be rostered, while Dan Gafford had 2 blocks. And then I did reference this on the rookie report earlier today about Kobe White and his height shooting, how it wasn't going to stick. Well, he had 6 points on 11 shots, and there you go. It didn't stick. Not a surprise with Kobe at all, and that's going to be something that plagues him, I think, for the rest of this season. Next up, the Golden State Warriors. They go down to the Minnesota Timberwolves, 84-99. The Warriors' rotation is just a disaster, really, in this game. It's so hard to get a full read on it. Marquise Chris started in place of Cauley Stein, played 22 minutes because he did have a locker room trip for a facial laceration. He is worth a stream at the very least while Cauley Stein is out, but that's not long-term. There was no D'Angelo Russell in this one, so Alec Burks started but played only 22 minutes. In fact, every player on this roster played over 20 minutes, apart from Alan Smilagic, who played 16 minutes. That just goes to show how much of a blowout this was and how little we can actually take from the rotation here. 26 minutes to the triangle, Eric Paschall. He was poor on his efficiency numbers, no peripherals, just 13 and 7, and I don't think he is a 12-team must-roster guy. While the little dog led the team in scoring, Glenn Robinson III, 16 points in 31 minutes. That is good. His minutes are consistent, but his production is not. He's more of a 14-teamer. Damian Lee only 10 points in 27 minutes. I still think that we have him in 12-teamers and we just try and figure out what happens with the contract info when we get it. For the Wolves, Bob Covington. This is the old Bob Covington. 20 and 10, 4 triples, 2 steals, 2 blocks. 53% shooting in a game where Towns, Wiggins, Teague, Layman, and Trevion Graham all sat out. I do believe that Covington is a sell high because of the way he has been utilised by Saunders throughout the season. But that doesn't mean that you give him away for any top 100 player. He's the 58th ranked player on the season despite playing under 29 minutes a game because he contributes in the steals and blocks and hits threes and hits his free throws. If someone wants to give you a top 40 type of guy like he was last, or top 30 like last year, or top 45 like the year before that, or top 40 the year before that, then do it. Otherwise, you hold it. But the pattern we saw is his minutes would drop down when those other guys played. He'd played 28 a night. But it's good to see the defensive numbers coming in a real rush here for Covington. 10 steals in his last 4 games to go along with 6 blocks during that time as well. Shabazz Napier, strong again. 20 points, 7 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block. 7 of 9 shooting, much like Michael Porter, that can't stick. But while Teague is out, his minutes are up. Now, the couple of games that Napier did start with Teague playing, Napier played 22 and Teague played 29 minutes. So that's not going to cut it out for 12-team formats. But grab him and let's just see what they decide to do. Because Jarrett Culver was not good again. 10 and 5 on 29% shooting. He's rough. 32 minutes there, but he's not a 12-teamer. Gorgie Jeng, not his best night. That's 2 stinkers in a row with Towns out. He's still worth holding for the short term, while Keelan Martin had 12 and 8 in 29 minutes. But again, this whole game, it's the rotations are so all over the place because of the myriad of short-term absences that are causing chaos there. The next game we take a look at, the Brooklyn Nets. They go down to the Dallas Mavericks, 123-111. Spencer Dinwiddie got into some foul trouble, so he played just 23 minutes. Lucky they kept his minutes low so he wouldn't foul out and play fewer minutes, just so he could end up playing fewer minutes. 23 minutes there, 19-2-5. While DeAndre Jordan started over Jarrett Allen. Cool. 10-10 in 22 minutes for Jordan. Only a rebounds stream type of a guy. There was no Garrett Temple, so Rowdy Rodion's Kuruks started 8-3-3 with 2 steals. That's not bad, but he only played 18 minutes, similar to what happened when he would start last season. We saw a few flashes from Janan Musa, who I think is going to be good. 14 points in 17 minutes. We had Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot played 26. We had Baby Neck Wilson Chandler played 24. Basically, it just looks like a Brooklyn Nets box score from years of old, as in last year or the year before, with everyone playing 26 to 27 minutes. So really hard to get a full read on that. Torian Prince was shit though, I know that much. 11 and 6 with 3 triples. He is a field goal percentage destroyer. And he struggles in a lot of areas. He really is, to me, just a streamer. And, of course, Jarrett Allen is a hold, despite the fact that he came off the bench behind DeAndre Jordan. For the Mavericks, they changed things up quite a bit. There was no Porzingis. There was no Tim Hardaway, so JJ Barea got a start. So did Justin Jackson. Now, he's crap. 8 points in 26 minutes for Jackson. That's a good night for him. But he's not an option. Maxi Kleber got the 31 off the bench, 18 points, 3 triples and 3 blocks. As long as Porzingis is out, Kleber is the 12-team league stream, while Seth Curry is the one that took advantage of Hardaway's absence here. 31 minutes off the bench for 25 points with 5 threes. Now it's on 69% shooting.
Giggity!
And it's not something that's going to be able to stick every game, but he's probably the most likely beneficiary. While Jalen Brunson went from starting to playing 11 minutes, and Barea had 10, 4, and 6 in his 21 minutes. Barea can be an assist stream, maybe, but he's not guaranteed to even play every night. Doncic, better touch on him, 31, 13, and 7 with great percentages, which is good after the last game. He was, I think he banged knees in this one as well. He was limping around a bit, while Boban had 10 and 7 in his 13 minutes. The next game we look at, the Oklahoma City Thunder get another victory. They are absolutely rolling. Beat the Spurs 109-103. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This is the Gilgeous-Alexander line that I thought he could get. Kyle thought he could get, probably more so than me, more regularly. 25, 7 and 5, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 56% shooting. Like when we see this, I see it and go, that's good, but it's not that far off what we expected him to be able to do. The problem is that the rebounds, the assists, the steals, and the blocks and the efficiency have all been missing. But he can do this more regularly. He's going to be a stud. Chris Paul already is 16, 8, and 5, while Schroeder should be rostered in all leagues. 19 points with 3 assists and 3 triples. And with Steven Adams not in foul trouble, Noel played only 18 minutes. He still blocked his 2 shots, and that's where his value is. And if you did lose Jonathan Isaac for basically the rest of the regular fantasy season, then Noel, if he's on your wire, he's the best approximate out there. A guy that can get 2 steals, 2 blocks, albeit in limited playing time. For the Spurs, LaMarcus Aldridge continues to bomb in threes, 4 triples in 22 points. Hopefully he can keep this up because this will really help his value. 3 blocks as well, while DeRozan had 34 and 3. Maximum Derek White.
Maximum Derek.
Only the 5 points, but this is why I like him. 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. If you get him to 14, 15 points a game, that's top 60, top 70 type of numbers in 30, 31 minutes. The problem is, there's no consistency with the playing time. He's not getting those minutes regularly. The shot's been off this year. And this is a great line, but I can't trust it enough for 12-teamers. Murray only played 24 here. Like that, the constant back and forth nonsense continues. At least the drip Lonnie Walker played over Marco Bellinelli. 16 and 7 in 21 minutes. Pop was effusive with praise after the game. And for Pop, that normally means you did well. But he was a little bit more verbose than that. But again, when I look at Lonnie's game, he lacks in so many areas. 1 assist, 0 steals, 0 blocks. A big night comes on 60% shooting. It's very Michael Porter-esque. Like, what else is he doing if the shot's not falling? So he's more of a 16-team grab. He took Bellinelli out of the rotation, which is great, but we've seen that happen once already this season and then just reverts back the other way. But it's good to see Walker out there playing well. Pirtle, just the 15 minutes, that's killing all of his value also. All right, let's move on now to the next game. We had the Memphis Grizzlies taking on the Sacramento Kings. The Kings win at 128-123. Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. had 18 and 7 with 3 triples, while Jonas Valanciunas 18 and 12. 29 minutes for Valanciunas here, so that limited Brandon Clark's playing time, annoyingly. 8 and 6 with a steal in 20 minutes for Clarkie. He still should be rostered, but that is frustrating. While Ja Morant, 33 minutes. That's probably the best sign here. Really kicked it up at the end of the game, was struggling early, but ended up 23 points, 7 assists on 62% shooting. He had been really dropping off with his efficiency. His usage had been down, but this is a good kickstart to get back there. While Jay Crowder started, he'd been out for a game. 31 minutes, 19 points with 6 assists. Don't buy into this. Don't think this is something that you want to do in 12-team leagues or go and add Crowder or anything along those lines. My mate, the wave pool, DeAnthony Melton, looked great again. 22 minutes, 16 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. 6 of 6 from the line, but getting these minutes is the tough thing. In 22 minutes, as I said the other day on a show, he's in 17 minutes, he's a top 150 player. So he is a guy that we can look at in 12-teamers. He's got to take minutes off Kyle Anderson or Tyus Jones or Solomon Hill or Grayson Allen or Dylan Brooks, like guys that aren't good. So the path to him doing it is there. Whether Jenkins wakes up and realizes it remains to be seen. But in a solid spot in the league, Melton's available in lots of different areas. He is a guy that I do believe in. And if 25 minutes a game comes, the top 100 is absolutely in reach for him. Brooks had 15 points in this one in his 28 minutes. He's just a streamer, deeper league sort of guy. For the Kings, De'Aaron Fox was great. 27, 4, and 9. Only 30 minutes, though, which was annoying. But 5 steals, 2 blocks, 50% from the field, 8 of 8 from the line. Great stuff. And Bud was great as well. 26 and 7. 5 triples, 3 assists, and 1 block. While Nemanja Bjelica had 8 and 5 with 2 blocks and 2 threes in another Marvin Bagley-less game. When Bagley comes back, Bjelica loses value, but he's still worth a back-end 12-team stream. Richaun Holmes had 18 and 7, wasn't his best night. We talked about him. I talked about him somewhere, about his free throw percentage, how far above his career numbers it was, especially recently. 57% here, so that it was something to watch, and it did drop off. While the pencil, Harrison Barnes, had 17 points. Got a bit of a late flurry going here. I'm not all that interested in him long-term. 1 rebound and 3 assists for Barnes. He's not a 12-team must-hold player. While Bogdan Bogdanovic late went to the locker room. That does help Barnes if he has to miss time. Bogdanovic, 16 points for Bogdan in his 23 minutes. Let's just hold to see if we get any more information about his injury. Now we go on to the last game of the day. The Detroit Pistons go to the Clippers. They lose 126-112. Blake Griffin was out. Originally before the game said, he's a game time decision. They said the same thing with the Shark, Bruce Brown, who was probable. But Griffin was out. And then at halftime, Pistons owner Tom Gores said that they weren't shutting him down for the season, but they're going to give him some time to rest and they'll evaluate it over the next week or so. So that makes me think we're going to get a few games off from Griffin here. I said earlier in the week that I think he's a drop. I'm even more convinced of that now. I just don't see Griffin getting back to any level or the amount of time you have to wait for him to get back to that level being worth it. I think he's a drop. Now, in his place, definitely.
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
Yes, Sekou Doumbouya started in place of Blake Griffin. Again, nobody expected that to happen, and I thought he looked all right. 27 minutes for Sekou. He got into some foul trouble, 10 and 11, and I think that he is going to start a swathe of games for this team. Now, whether it's in place of Blake or not, I don't know, because remember, Markieff Morris was also out of this game. But I can see Sekou either starting in place of Blake or starting in place of Tony Snell down the stretch. Now, I don't think he's going to be a 12-team league guy. I really like Sekou. I think he was a really good pick from the Pistons this season. I think that he probably should have been a top 10 guy. Getting at 15 was a bargain for them. He's going to be an interesting 16-team league fantasy ad. I would at least look into that. And I think we're going to get at least a short-term boost here for his value. Christian Wood, also worth an ad. 14 and 6 in 25 minutes with Griffin. Again, I think likely going to be out for a little bit of time here. I think Wood is an ad. While the Shark, Bruce Brown, had 15, 2 and 6. Again, also a short-term ad, especially for 14-teamers. Tim Frazier, I don't know how this guy keeps getting NBA minutes or keeps starting. This is what happens. He comes in, he starts, he has one game, they have 7 assists. Oh, Tim Frazier, man, assists. And they play him 25 minutes, and every game, it just drops down and down and down, and he goes out of the rotation. And then 3 weeks later, Tim Frazier's back, everybody. Hey! And then the same shit happens for 5 years in a row. Like, what is going on? Like, he started again today and played 12 minutes and had 0 points. He should not be in the rotation. He should not be in an NBA rotation. It's frustrating. Anyway, Drummond had 10 and 12, the big avocado, with 3 steals and a block. His shooting was pretty piss poor here, while Derrick Rose, just the standard, 27 minutes, 14, 2 and 6. Derrick Rose has been good this year, but let's just get this out of the way. He's not an all-star. And the amount of all-star campaigns that people are starting for him on the internet is ridiculous. He's been good, though, no doubt about that. Well, Tony Snell, if I'm going to piss on him every time he plays bad, 14 points in 25 minutes. Tone, well done. Good work. On to the Clippers. Paul George left this game with hamstring tightness. Now, they were about 30 points up at that point, so hard to say how severe that's going to be. We'll keep that updated when we hear more about it, but he played just the 16 minutes. With him out, JaMychal Green played 26 and Flaming Mo Harkless played 25. Harkless had 12 and 9 with 2 blocks, while Green had 12 and 12 with 2 threes. Now, they're not 12-team ads, but there's going to be some short-term 12 or 14-team league value, for both of those guys. The fun guy had 18, 6 and 5, while Lou Williams returned from the birth of his child to have 22, 5 and 5. And again, with George out, more shots go towards Lou. There was no Pat Beverly, so Landry Shamet started. He had 8 points. The 5 assists are nice from Shamet. The 2 threes are useful, but he's really just a 3-point streamer in, say, 14 to 16-team leagues. The table, Montrezl Harrell had 23 points and also 4 blocks, which is not something we expect from him, while Zubats had 8 and 5 and also had 4 blocks. Good numbers from those guys. Of course, Harrell's a 12-team league guy and Zubats is more of a 14-team league player. Let's go across now and have a look at some injury news before we talk some DFS. John Isaac, the diagnosis on his knee. Now, everyone looks at this and goes, oh, that's good news. He didn't tear his ACL. He's only just got a bone bruise and a severe sprain. But a severe sprain is like a grade 3 ligament tear, right? So it's not the best of news. Now, it did avoid his MCL and ACL and PCL, but there is still his LCL in there, patella tendon as well. They didn't specify what it was, and they said he'll be reevaluated in 8 to 10 weeks. Now, bone bruise shut Robert Covington down for 3 months last season. It's cost a month here for Justice Winslow with his back. So a bone bruise in a knee plus a severe ligament sprain, I don't look at that and go, well, multiple people have said this to me as well. This is why I'm bringing it up. No way he's out 10 weeks, Josh. He avoided serious damage. It's not an ACL. It's just a bruise. I think it'll heal quick and he'll be back in 6 weeks. I do not believe that. I could be wrong with this pretty clearly, but I think the 8 to 10 week reevaluation period, I think we're looking 10 minimum here, probably closer to 12. And that takes January, February, and most of March out of the equation. And there's your fantasy season done. So by all means, you put him in your IR, no worries. If you don't have an IR, waiting until middle of the fantasy playoffs, can you deal with a 0? Probably not. A lower body injury that's severe like this, and it is severe, don't get me wrong. What's he going to come back and do? Play limited minutes? It's a real rough one to me. Oh, he is not, to me, going to be playing in games until March, which again is fantasy playoff time. And you need to be in a strong position to stash. I think we have to consider Isaac a drop. Now, I talked about it on yesterday's show. Yeah, Aaron Gordon, if he's on your wire, you add him. You try maybe a DJ Augustin, you add Fultz if he's around. Maybe it's Terrence Ross. But the guys like Emil Jefferson or Kem Birch or Mo Bamba, I really don't see it for them. I don't think if Bamba couldn't put up value when Vucevic was down, he's not going to do it when the team's small forward is out. I don't think anyway. Maybe they want to give him more minutes. I don't see it. The other guy,
sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Yeah, some people are thinking that, Aminu's going to be the ad. Like, he's not even guaranteed to play this season. He had a setback with his meniscus tear, and he's probably going to need surgery and be out for the rest of the season, is my guess with Aminu. So he's not an option either. So it's going to be guys like Weza Wundu and Melvin Frazier and Michael Carter-Williams who steps in and gets some minutes, and Jefferson and Birch and Bamba, a whole bunch of different guys who are going to take Isaac's numbers. Nobody replaces what John Isaac does. If Nerlens Noel is around, he's your best like-for-like type of defensive stat accumulator. But no one in this Magic team is going to come in and just give you steals and blocks and score and hit threes and grab rebounds the way that Johnny does. There's going to be a whole bunch of guys that fill those minutes, and none of them become 12-team ads. Marvin Williams suffered a nasal trauma injury, whatever that is. He's not an issue. But big news, or good news, Karis LeVert's going to return on Saturday. So go and add him off the waiver wire. And he wasn't a standard league player before he got injured. In terms of ranking, of course, he was a guy that you still held. But you go and add him now, especially with Kyrie out. If he's around, you should have added him already. But he's a guy that's coming back. Well, Kristaps Porzingis. The word is that he will just miss the one more game for the Dallas Mavericks. That's from Tim McMahon, that he'll only miss that one game as one more game. Sorry, so that's that short-term value there for Maxi Kleber. And then, as I mentioned, Paul George pinged his hammy today. We don't know how severe that injury is. It doesn't appear to be too bad at this point. So let's go on and talk about the games for Friday. We're looking at DraftKings pricing for these games. All right, the first game up is the Portland Trailblazers and the Washington Wizards. Bradley Beal is questionable. He's got a back-to-back here, the Wizards, so it looks like he'll probably sit out one of these games. Of course, if he is out, then you've got big boost for Jordan McRae. You get some upside-ish value with the big mitten Gary Payton. You get Garrison Matthews. You just get a whole bunch of guys that can get an increase. Ish Smith, Isaiah Thomas, all of those guys should get a boost in their overall usage and or minutes. For Portland, Mario Hezonja is probable, but that doesn't mean that it's going to have any impact on DFS. At point guard, this is DraftKings pricing as well. CJ McCollum, 7,100. I like it. The matchup's pretty good for Siege here. He's been a little bit under, averaging just 33 over the last 5, but I think he can get back over that. While Simon's at 38 is only ever for tournaments, and Jordy McRae at 58. Now, that's a pretty decent price for McRae, but if Beal is out, he'll smash that. Ish Smith's at 42, also has been playing more minutes than Isaiah Thomas lately, so I think he is worthwhile looking at. While Lillard at 9,700, I think that might be a little bit too high. It is a $500 price rise for Lillard. Now we know he's good, but are you going to get that value back in a game? It could be a blowout, although Portland's shit, so maybe not. Isaiah Thomas is at 53. Numbers way down. I think we do better than Isaiah here. As for the big mitten, he's at 4,300. He just had 7 points last game, but there could be an opportunity if we do hear that Beal is out. At shooting guard, Kent Bazemore was all the way down at 3,500 for a real reason. He's been terrible. There is some value in a guy that gets minutes, but with Mallow, with McCollum, with Lillard taking all the shots, I just don't see how he's got any ability to get to that number. While Beal's at 85, I'd be really cautious about using him. Troy Brown's at 54. If it was 45, I'd be much happier with Brown at that price. I just think that's probably a little bit too much for a low upside type of guy. While Garrison Matthews at minimum salary still, he's been getting to the free throw line, but doesn't mean that it's translating into big numbers. He did have that 35-pointer against Miami in one of the weirdest games of the year. If Beal is out, a tournament maybe. Small forwards, Mallow is at 6,700. He dropped 36 against the Knicks. I think that 6,700 price tag's probably too high with the extra $800 tacked on after last game. For your big man, Pasechnix is at 3,200. He had 21 last game. Really good matchup for centers going up against the Portland Trailblazers. So Onjez can be a tournament guy, but even then not that high. While Mahinmi's wildly up and down, I wouldn't feel comfortable about using him. Well, what about Hassan Whiteside? He's all the way up at 9,500. That is pretty bloody high. That's a $1,200 jump from Whiteside, and it almost takes, I think it does take him out of consideration. The composer, John Williams, will probably start at power forward again, but I don't think that we need to get too excited about him. Next up, let's go to the Miami Heat and the Orlando Magic. John Isaac is out, of course, while Aaron Gordon is questionable. Michael Carter-Williams is also out, so Wes Iwundu, Melvin Frazier could get a run. And then if Gordon's out, look for some more Kem Birch, some more Mo Bamba, some more Amil Jefferson, who might be a starter there at power forward alongside Iwundu. I imagine that if Gordon plays, Iwundu will just start in place of Isaac. At point guard, Kendrick Nunn. The Heat on a back-to-back here. I don't expect Justice Winslow to be playing. Nunn is at 4,400. A lot of minutes coming his way, and I like that salary. That gives him value to me here in this one. While Fultz at 4,900, he should be able to absorb a little bit more playing time as they push Augustin and Ross to the 2 and to the 3 respectively, taking some of those Isaac minutes, which does help Fultz. I think there is value in him here. He dropped 37 against the Wizards last game. The Iron Shoulder, Goran Dragic is at 54. On a back-to-back, I'd be really cautious with him, while Augustin's at 5,000, absolutely rolling. 34 average over the last 3, dropped 47 last game. He can be up and down, but I do think the absence of Isaac can help him, especially if Gordon is out. At shooting guard, Hero is at 3,700. He can exceed that number. He had a pretty strong game today, but I'm not massively excited about him. While Terry Ross at 4,000, that's an interesting GPP option as well. Dunk Robinson, no thanks. While Jim Butler at 7,800. Pretty disappointing on Thursday, but I think Butler at that price is a really good look. Fournier at 61, just not for me. I don't like Iwundu either, despite the fact that he might start. Although, to be fair to him, he did have 21 points in 22 minutes last game, and at 3,100, that's value. I just don't feel that good about it. Fierce small forwards, Derek Jones is at 39. He's giving those numbers, 22, 23 a night, with Winslow expected out. There's enough cash value there to build around Jones. Not that he's a core guy, but you know what I mean. You can at least free up some salary for some other positions, while Gordon's at 57. If he does play, I think that's really good value for Aaron. For your big man, Adebayo's at 76, has been a bit down. Pretty strong on Thursday against the Raptors, but 7,600 is okay. I'd feel pretty good about him. While Vooch at 8,000 also looks like a relatively strong option. Bumba and Birch, I don't think they're going to really be troubling the DFS scorers to an amount that you need to care about. All right. The next game up is the Atlanta Hawks. It's the Boston Celtics. Jabari Parker and Kevin Huerter are both probable. Trae Young is back, while Jaylen Brown is probable. But Kemba Walker has popped up on the injury report with an illness, the one that assuming the one that did cost Jaylen the last game. If Kemba was out, I imagine Marcus Smart would start and more minutes would go towards Brad Wanamaker and probably Romeo Langford with both Tremont Waters and Carson Edwards currently in the G League. At point guard, Smart's at 5,100. I would like him a lot if Kemba is out. That would be good value there. As for Kemba himself at 8,300, I think if he's under the weather, the game could be a blowout. They would limit his minutes a bit there, so he probably wouldn't be one I'd get too interested in. While Young's at 9,200, we know the Celtics are pretty good defensively, but Young is really, really good, and I think that he could be a 40-point guy. Is that worth 9,200? Probably not. So I think we might fade him in this one. While Fanderpants himself's at 5,200, I feel pretty good about him getting to that number. At shooting guard, Jaylen Brown's at 7,700. He's been good. That just keeps feeling like it's a little bit too high. The only positive thing towards Brown here is the matchup is a good one. So I'd be at least open to that discussion. DeAndre Bembry and Cam Reddish, no thanks. At small forward, Hunter's at 4,200, only for tournaments. I don't feel confident in him. While Hayward at 7,000 would be really, really good if Kemba is out. I think that's a pretty strong option there. Tate's is at 8,200. Jason Tatum, I'd rather spend the 1,200 less and take Hayward personally. Jabari's at 37. No, thank you. And then on to the big man. Vanilla Tice, no thanks. John Collins at 75. Now, the Celtics are pretty good defending big men, and that could be an issue there for Collins, but it's not a horrible price to use him, and there is some value, especially in tournaments, because he can be a 50-point sort of a guy. We just don't know, sort of how this game script is going to play out. Alex Len's been playing well at 4,300, but I don't have much confidence in that. While Enes Kanter blocked 6 shots last game, dropped 47 points. He is now at 5,500. I think that's probably a little bit too high for my liking. Let's go on to the next game now. We have got the Philadelphia 76ers and the Houston Rockets. Joel Embiid has been upgraded to probable with that knee soreness, while Jim Ennis is doubtful with a stomach illness, and Kylo Quinn, the cock monster, he is not on the injury report. At point guard, Jim Harden's at 10,900. He's averaging 63 over the last 5. The Sixers defense is no joke, and that would be the only reason I'd consider fading Harden here. Simmons is at 8,100, and despite what you might think of his game, he's a consistent 40-plus point performer in DFS, and that's pretty strong for me. While Westbrook apparently now can't miss free throws. He's averaged 60 the last 3 times against Philadelphia as a member of the Thunder. He's averaging 50 his last 3 games as a member, or last 5 games as a member of the Rockets. So at 9,000, I think he is worth at least looking at here, but the matchup against Simmons can be an issue. At shooting guard, Joshie Richardson's at 59. I like the upside value there for Josh, who has dropped in 31 over the last 5, and Eric Gordon at 37. That price is interesting for Gordo, but with guys healthy, he just doesn't get to that level of value. Macklemore, no thanks. We might actually see some DRC Zaire Smith in this game, but that's not interesting. At small forward, Toby Harris is at 6,600. Has been really disappointing, averaging just 27 over his last 3 games. He can be better than that. I think this might be the time to bring him out and try that. While PJ Tucker's been bad, averaging under 19 points in the last 3. That is a strong no. Dan House at 47. Mike Scott also not interesting. Big men, Capella, 6,900.
Giggity!
Now, I have to like that. That is not just because of the name or the price, but it is an interesting salary for Clint Capella. Given he's averaged over 40 a game against the Sixers the last 3 times, I really like him here in this one. Horford's at 58 and he's been struggling. I'd pass there. While Embiid at 9.4, I think that's a pretty strong option. Embiid's going to get close to 50 most nights. No reason to really steer clear here. Big Isaiah Hardenstein's been crushing it. 34 a game over the last 3 in 26 minutes. Now, 2 of those were without Capella, but he still played well last game, even with Capella playing. But I'm not so confident that he's going to get enough minutes to really beat that number, which is at 4,500. But he's always just a name to watch. I just don't think that the value is really there for him at that price. Maybe minimum salary, but no. Not that one. New York at Phoenix. Alfred Payton is on the injury report as questionable, as is Dennis Smith Jr., so it could be an interesting point guard scenario. While Frank the Tank Kaminsky is doubtful and ravishing Rick Rubio after hurting his hip last game, he is probable. I imagine DeAndre Ayton will go back into the starting lineup in this game. Rubio is at 7,200, and he'd been putting up numbers commensurate with that value pretty comfortably, and this matchup does work in his favor. I think he's worth looking at here as a solid option, while Devin Booker at 79, he's just dropping 40s left, right, and center, and that gives him cash and tournament value. Alfred Payton at 65 is too highly priced. Ali Okobo, Tyler Johnson, Frank Ntilikina, no to all of those guys. At shooting guard, Bridges is at 38. He's been playing a lot better, but he's a better category league guy than a DFS guy, so I think we probably fade off on him. Damian Dotson ceded minutes to Reggie Bullock last game, so I wouldn't want to get excited there, not that you ever would. While Marcus Morris at 5,600, I think that's strong cash value with limited upside. Oubre killing it, 6,800. You got a feeling that there's a huge level of unsustainability in what he's doing, but 6,800 is not a completely outrageous price, and the matchup's great for Kelly, so I do think that we can at least look at him and have some level of confidence. And then Šarić, you should have zero confidence. He has been a trash bag, and Kevin Knox is Kevin Knox. At center, DeAndre Ayton is at 7,300. I like that one quite a bit, while Mitchie Robinson.
And Mitch Robinson says, I'll take it from here.
At some point, he has to start. Might as well make it this game. 5,800 is a good price. He's giving us 30 a night. He needs to start. I like him here. I like Ayton more, but I do like Mitch Robinson here. Aaron Baines, Bob Portis, no thanks. Julius Randle at 77 on a real run. I don't hate using him as well. I think he's a pretty good option to use in this matchup. The next game is the last game. It's the Pelicans at the Lakers. The Lakers are 10.5-point favorites, and the total is 223.5. Alex Caruso is questionable with calf tightness, while Anthony Davis has popped up again, probable with a shoulder issue. At point guard, Drew Holiday's at 7,400. He's giving us 42 a night. No reason why he doesn't give us another 40 at least here. Good value for Drew Holiday, while LeBron James, he's at 11-2. He's a 60-point guy most nights. Again, really like LeBron in this one. Lonzo Ball's playing well. He had 59 last game. How's he going to go against his former team? I think we should at least have a look at him as a GPP guy here, while Rondo at 43 is a strong-ass fade. Caruso, no thanks. Bradley played well last game, but I'm not buying it either. At shooting guard, Redick at 3,400 because he has been poor. I will leave that alone. While Josh the Hitman Hart, not enough minutes. Each one more, playing well, but not confident. If I'm going to take a flyer on anyone, it probably is more at 3,800, but even then, not looking great. KCP, not a good DFS guy. Ingram's at 78. He's just a walking 40-point, 45-point guy at the moment, and that gives real value at that level of salary, even though the matchup's not a great one. While Kuzma's at 5,200, he's just too up and down for me to get too excited about, and the upside's not that high. Anthony Davis is at 10-3. Have to love that one. He dropped 61 against them earlier this season, while Dwight Howard is at 42. No, thank you. JaVale McGee also no. And then you got Derek Favors at 6,200, who is killing it since he's been back. He's averaging 37 points over the last 5 games since his minutes restrictions have been lifted. This matchup is a tough one for centers, so I might leave off Favors here despite how well he has been playing. If we just flick over to FanDuel now for some options, Toby Harris and Ayton, Carmelo, Whiteside, Lonzo, Davis, Marcus Morris, Richardson and McCollum, Gordie Hayward and Clint Capella are some of the names that I like as value plays over on FanDuel. That'll do it for me today and for this week, the first week of 2020. Make sure you are subscribed. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Ja Morant.